All right, let's get into it. It's time for another Warhammer 40,000 Codex review, brought to you by the nice people at Games Workshop, who sent this along as a complimentary copy to review, check out, describe, and hang out with you guys about. I got my bottle of water, I got my extra big Tim Hortons coffee, I got my Prison for Wizards t-shirt, and my Coldest Night 2022 toque. Today's actually the day. It's Coldest Night Day. We're going to go hike to raise funds to combat homelessness and, of course, our rising epidemic of unhoused here in the Niagara region. Do this every year. You check out more, you can go to the link in the video description. It's Walk With Me, Ash Barker. And yeah, and we're gonna review some books. It's Codex Aeldari. Oh man, it's been a week, and then this fine thick book showed up on my doorstep. There's a lot going on here. This is a big book. This is, how many pages we got here? 200? Exactly 200. Because this book ate the Harlequin Codex and shoved it all together. So the Drukhari still get to stand on their own, but much like not the cheese, the Harlequins have now been absorbed into the main Aeldari Codex with rules, of course, spoiled mostly on Warhammer community to play them either as their own faction or just take a little group of them, little group hanging out with the Drukhari, the Aeldari, because why not? Also, the Ynnari are in here as their own separate faction as well. So a huge blend, tons of color artwork. Tons of like stuff in the different Craftworlds, different Harlequin masks, fleets of infamy for the space pirates. Oh yeah, because there's kind of a third faction in here too, the the space pirates. Of course, the Void Reavers are the new kill team, which everyone's super pumped about. We got some new plastics, and of course, this book defeats the meme of, you know, longer than since the Eldar got new models. There are still some pretty venerable models in here. The Falcon Grav Tank is pushing 30 years old. It'll be 30 years old pretty soon. It's like late 90s, the Falcon Grav Tank. From back when it didn't look like a flat iron for ironing your shirt. But yeah, some sweet new Ranger models, some sweet new Shroud Runners, which don't have the Ranger keyword, unfortunately, as you'll find out why later. To go along with all the other sort of like neat new stuff. The Night Spinner, of course, still on the Falcon chassis with a relatively new top piece there. But we did get some really cool stuff in the form of the new Avatar Kane, redone for the first time ever with a bare head. How cool is that? And then, of course, a bunch of different head axe weapon options, because it's just the various aspects of the God of Murder, Caleb mentioned Kane, who, you know, sometimes he likes to hit you with an axe. Sometimes he's going to use his stabber. Sometimes he's going to use the long stabber, which is the spear. Sometimes he's going to use the wood splitting stabber, which is the axe. All of them are stabbers. All of them will equally murder you. And, yeah. And you know, they're all different aspects of murder. So cool that they got that. Some classics in here still. Prince Ariel's still kicking around. Look at that guy. He was one of the coolest models of the mid-2000s, late 2000s. And of course, got a new plastic Harlequins. All the characters like the Shadows here, Death Jester and Solitaire, the Star Weaver, and then some new plastics like the new plastic Dark Reaper. Of course, the Ynnari Howling Banshee Exarch was redone when they redid Jane Czar. She was the first of the Phoenix Lords to get new models. But surprise, plot twist, there's still some classics in here. There's still some real Phoenix Lords. Like Baroth, Fugin, and Karandras, who did not get resculpts. There they are, the Panoply of Piracy. Possibly the coolest miniatures of the last 10 years. These space pirates are amazing, and there's a whole host of new rules. So I'll quit dithering. You guys are probably screaming at the screen now. Get on with the rules, Ash. I'm going to primarily focus on stuff that Warhammer community hasn't covered. I might miss some things. There's the path of the preview has been a lot, so I'm relatively sure on what's been covered. Like the Avatar's been covered to death, but some stuff hasn't. So we're gonna jump in and talk about it. So first things first, Ynnari detachment abilities. We've got your basic like overview of what you have if you have an Ynnari detachment. So you get the Leaders of the Warhusk ability. Units in an Ynnari detachment gain the Craftworld attributes ability. Troops get OBSEC. And then Leaders of the Warhouse, you can have a maximum of 1 autarch model in each detachment. So you can't spam autarchs, which means, you know, no smash captain version of the autarch, basically. Traveling players, you can have a detachment of Harlequins as long as they're all Harlequins and have that keyword as a patrol detachment in either an Azoriana or Drakiri army, and it never counts against you in any format of match play, it says in here. So no matter what, it's basically, they're a free kind of detachment you can take. Got to preview the combat patrol here, so you get a Guardian box, 2 boxes of, whatchamacallits, jet bikes, you Farseer and a Wraith Lord, so nice little bonus there. And what else do we get? So Craftworld attributes, which are basically based on the Craftworld you pick and or make, because you can make a minor Craftworld, kind of like a Space Marine chapter. You get your strats, treasures, and warlord traits. So let's see, what can we pick? Well, we got Ulthway. Their attribute is Foresight of the actually, you know what? I just realized we should probably go through and talk about the core detachment rules before we actually start talking about that stuff. Because there is things like, here we go. The Craftworld keywords and your abilities. So Strands of Fate and Battle Focus, a lot of this stuff refers to it, so I'm just going to jump forward and talk about it. So Battle Focus, you can shoot when you advanced, but and if you do so until the end of the phase, all your units can only make attacks with assault and pistol weapons, and you can't have them remain stationary. So you can just run and gun assault and pistol weapons all the time. In your shooting phase, after this unit's finished making its attacks, unless it fell back or advanced this turn, the unit can make a Battle Focus move, moves a d6. Sweet. You can't get into a transport during that move. And you can't make a Battle Focus move if you arrive as reinforcements. So the trick there is no jumping in within 9 of something, Battle Focusing forward, and then charging. This is just a little caveat, but kind of important to, you know, not be able to like alpha strike certain things in the game. Or like, for instance, jump out of or reinforce somehow like fire dragons and then jump into like super melter range. Battle Focusing through area terrain, you can still do it. And then Favor Decaying, this is the universal Phoenix Lord rule. You have a 4+ invul, you can lose a maximum of 3 wounds in every phase, and you can never be given a relic or warlord trait. So your Phoenix Lord's pretty tough. They don't actually have that many wounds. So killing them in a, you could, like if you get shooting phase wounds and combat wounds, you're probably killing them. But you know, you're going to be close. And then Strands of Fate. So if every unit in your army has the Azoriani keyword, and it's drawn from the same Craftworld, excluding like your Anrath, which is the pirates or unaligned keywords, then at the start of each battle round, you can make a Strands of Fate roll, and to do so, roll 6d6. You can retain a number of these dice depending upon the size of the game you're playing. So basically, you roll a handful of dice, you see what fate gives you, and then you get to keep the dice. And then each of the results you keep lets you do one thing if you want. Basically, you can count a roll as a 6. So you look at the future by rolling a handful of dice, and you go, I want, if I'm playing an incursion game, 3 dice that are 5s or 2s. So the 6 is probably the most important one. It's a saving throw is automatically a 6. You can just keep somebody alive if they have like an invul or something like that through almost anything. But things like a charge roll, making one of the charge roll dice a 6 automatically could be super handy. There's a bunch of things here where you get the ability to manipulate fate. And the bigger a game you're playing, so in a Strike Force game, standard 2,000 point, you know, barring tournament game, 4 dice you get to keep. So you're rolling 66, keeping 4 dice, and then you get to choose which ones you want to keep based on the roll type that you have. So 1 is an advanced roll, 2 is a charge roll, 3 is a psychic test, 4 is a hit roll, 5 is a wound roll, and 6 is a saving throw. And then just automatically a 6 that die for the turn. And sort of the battle round, which means that you basically get new ones after you and your opponent both had a turn. Then you get deployment abilities, advanced positions, set up anywhere in the battlefield more than 9 from the enemy, sudden assault. During deployment, every model in this unit has this ability. You can set up the unit preparing, and they get a free move, but have to stay away from 9. And then weapon abilities, shuriken weapons. If you roll a 6 to wound, its attack AP is improved by 2. So if it's AP 1, it becomes 3. If it's AP 0, it becomes 2. However you want to do it. So those are important. We go through those first. So now you know what Strands of Fate and Battle Focus and stuff do, because obviously all of this stuff kind of refers to those key mechanics. All right, so Ulthway. They have the attribute, the Foresight of the Damned. Each time a unit with this attribute is selected to shoot or fight, you can reroll a wound roll. Each time you take a psych test for a psyker in this unit. If the first psych test taken for that unit that turn, add 1. So all of your psychers get +1 in their first cast, basically. And then models have a 6+ invul all the time across the whole army. They're kind of, it's funny, they're kind of like the Ludas, the Death Skulls of the Eldar. And each time a model in this attribute would lose a wound as a result of a mortal wound, they get a 5+ shrug. So you have a 6+ invul and a 5+ mortal wound shrug. I mean, that's pretty cool. Your Warlord trait is, after you make a Strands of Fate roll, keep an extra die if your Warlord's from the battlefield, or on the battlefield. And then your Relics, the Ghost Helm of Alashazar. Ultimate Psyker only. You know 1 additional Psych power from the Runes of Fortune, and each time a Psych test is taken on an unmodified result of 9+, the Psych power cannot be denied. So the power action can't be denied on a 9+. And you're getting +1 to cast for all your Psychers for the first cast. So hard roll an 8, and you can't unbind it. Discipline of the Black Guardians is your stratagem for 1 CP. Using the shooting phase of the fight phase, if you select an ultimate guard unit to shoot or fight, till the end of the phase, each time a model in that unit makes an attack, add 1 to the hit roll. So +1 to hit. Aletok, this was a fan favorite in early 8th because of their -1 to hit. They got Fieldcraft as their attribute. If you're more than 12 away, they get light cover. Each time a ranged attack is made against an infantry or biker unit with this attribute, it's entirely on or in a terrain feature. It has dense cover, so you get light cover all the time outside 12, dense if you're outside 12 and in cover. You ignore any and all modifiers to the move characteristic for units with this attribute, and you can ignore any and all modifiers to advance rolls made for such units. So no tangle footing these fools. Your Warlord trait is the Master of Ambush. In your command phase, you can select an Aletok infantry corps within 9. Until the end of the turn, if that unit's performing an action, they can shoot without it failing. At the start of the first battle round, before the first turn begins, if this Warlord's on the battlefield, you can select a unit of Rangers in the battlefield, remove them from the battlefield, and put them anywhere on the battlefield more than 9 from the enemy. And then your relic is the Shift Shroud of Alansair. Aletok infantry only. While the bearer is receiving the benefits of cover, it can't be selected as the target of a ranged attack unless it's the closest and within 12. Pathfinder Ambush is your stratagem. Use stratagem in the reinforcement step of the movement phase. Select an Aletok Rangers unit from your army that's either on the battlefield or in strategic reserve. If they're in reserves, set them up anywhere in the battlefield within 18 of an enemy unit and more than 9 from enemy models. At the end of the phase, that ranged unit can shoot as if it were your shooting phase, but until the end of that phase, it can only target the enemy unit that was set up to hunt. So basically, you can ambush somebody from reserve. And then Bealtan, you get this is the mostly aspect warrior one. You get the Sword Wind. Whenever you roll a battle focus move, a 1 or 2 counts as a 3. And each time a unit with this attribute shooting or fighting can reroll a hit roll. So you get to reroll a hit. It's kind of cool. They're like the opposite of both way. Warlord trait's Natural Leader. In your command phase, select a friendly Bealtan corps within 6 until the end of the turn. Each time a model in that unit makes an attack, reroll a hit roll. So you get like basically Chapter Master for your Warlord. And then your relic is the Spirit Stone of Anathlan for your Bealtan Psyker. No additional power from the chosen discipline. And once per Psych phase, reroll a Psych test. You get the Wrath of the Shrines as a CP. Use it in the shoot or fight phase. When a Bealtan aspect warrior unit from your army is selected to shoot or fight, until the end of the phase, each time a model in that unit makes a hit, an unmodified roll of 6 does an additional hit, so exploding 6s. Eandon, this was Owen's favorite. Your attribute is Stoic Endurance. This is the Ghost Army. Each time a combat attrition test is taken, add 1 to the test. Each time an attack is allocated to this model, model with this attribute, if the attack has an AP of 1 or 2, you worsen the AP by 1. So 1 becomes 0, 2 becomes 1. Warlord trait, 5+ wound shrug, and then your relic is Citronomy of Eandon. Oh, these made up words. Eandon model only in your shooting phase. You can select 1 friendly Eandon Spirit House model within 9 until start of the next command phase. Add 1 of the attack characteristic of models in that unit, and if the unit's Wraith Guard, it gains the Battle Focus ability. So it doesn't normally have Battle Focus, but hey, cool, you do. Battle Focus for D cannons would be kind of super sweet. So you could be always running your unit and shooting your D cannons and then battle focusing away. There's a definite bonus to having D sides and D cannons with battle focus. And then Guided Wraith Sight for 1 CP is a stratagem in your shooting phase or fight phase. Select 1 Eandon Spirit Seal model from your army and 1 Spirit Host unit. Until the end of the phase, they're considered to be within range of the Spirit Mark abilities. So basically, you can link units, not like worrying about range. And then same hand, the Wild Host. You can reroll charge rolls for models with this ability. Units with this ability are eligible to declare a charge even if they fall back. You get a warlord trait, Wild Rider Chieftain, +1 to your attacks. This warlord is eligible to perform a heroic intervention within 6 and 5, and can move 6 and 5. And then Talisman of Tionkar is your relic. It's same hand only. Each time the bear makes a melee attack, if the bear made a charge move or heroically intervene, get +1 strength and damage. And improve its AP by 1. So here's my Singing Spear now, which is AP 4. Sorry, AP 1 and damage 4, sorry. Warriors of the Raging Winds. Use this stratagem in the start of your charge phase. Select one same-hand biker unit from your army till the end of the phase. They can charge even if they advanced. Kind of neat. And then Far-Flung Clefts. This is the make your own Craftworlds thing. Basically, you can pick 2 attributes or In the Footsteps of the Ancients. If you play In the Footsteps of the Ancients, then you pick one of the primary Craftworlds. It's yours. Change its name to this thing. You're an outline Craftworld. Otherwise, pick 2 of these things and stick them together. There's no weird point system for it or the tree system from the Tau Codex. Just pick 2. And you get all kinds of things, like you get each time model this attribute makes a melee attack on a 6, get +1 damage to wound. Children of Morag Hay. Each time a model this attack makes an attack, if you're below your unit's starting strength, add 1 to its hit roll. So once you get damaged, you get +1 to hit. When you make a psych test or deny the witch, reroll 1s and 2s. Children of the Open Skies, +1 move if you can fly. Sorry, +1 move, +2 if you can fly. And then treat your advanced rolls as 1 to 2 as 3. Diviners of Fate, each time you make a Strands of Fate roll an additional d6. Elite Citizenry, add 1 to leadership, and then each time a unit in this attribute is selected to fight, you can reroll a hit roll. Expert Crafters, you can reroll a wound roll when shooting or fighting. Grim, +1 combat attrition. Again, a lot of these are ported over from the main ones. Hail of Doom, if you make a shuriken weapon attack on an unmodified hit roll of 6, automatically wounds, and is treated as an unmodified wound roll of 6. So 6s to hit, explode into 6s to wound. So you get the AP. Hail of Doom is actually kind of cool. 6s to hit basically are also -3 AP. And then Headstrong, you can roll advance and charge rolls. Hunters of Ancient Relics. While the unit with these attributes performing an action, you can shoot without it failing. Masterful Shots. Don't get light cover when making range attacks. Master Concealment. When you're outside 12, you get light cover. Mobile Fighters. When you make an attack, if the unit's disembarked from a transport this turn, you get +1 to wound. It's kind of cool for dumping out of like a Wave Serpent. Savage Blades, when you make a melee attack, if you charge or heroically intervene, you get bonus AP. Swift Strikes, you can shoot unless that unit fell back this turn, and how it counts as remaining stationary, so even if you move. Students of Vol, each time attack with a damage of 1 is allocated to a vehicle with this attribute, add 1 to its save. Shurikens, Superior Shurikens, +3 range to your shuriken weapons. Vengeful, if you make an attack with a melee weapon, unmodified hit roll of 6 makes an extra hit. Warding Runes, you get a 6+ invul. Each time model in this unit would lose a wound as a result of a mortal wound, you get a 5+ wound strike, you get the Ulthway defenses. Webway Warriors, when a reinforcement unit from this, with this ability is set up on the battlefield for the first time, until the end of that turn, each time they make an attack, an unmodified hit roll of 6 does an extra hit. And Wrath of the Dead, Wraith Construct units, excluding aircraft, with this attribute can heroically intervene as if they were characters. So kind of cool. All right, now the Ynnari. Oh my gosh, look at this gobbledygook. They're almost like their own Craftworld now. So you select being Ynnari as if you were a Craftworld. So a Craftworld detachment from the Ynnari can also include Harlequin units, Cabal Drukhari units, Witch Cult Drukhari, and Incubi, and Scourges. But for each of these units, you must have one as your unit with the same battlefield role. So basically, if you want to take a Archon, you'd have to have a Farseer who's an Ynnari, and vice versa. If you wanted to take a unit of Kabalite Warriors, you'd have to take a unit of Guardians or something from that same battlefield role. Harlequins and Drukhari units included in an Ynnari lose the detachment Saith, Cabal, or Witch Cult faction keyword if they had one, and gain the Ynnari keyword, which is considered a replacement for the Craftworld keyword. And they will gain these Craftworld attributes as specified on page 84. So if they were troops, they'd gain OBSEC, basically. Ynnari Psychers cannot know any powers from the Runes of Fate discipline, but can know powers from the Revenant discipline instead of one other discipline that they have access to. For example, when generating powers for Ynnari Farseer, you can select powers from the Revenant and or Runes of Fortune discipline, but never from the Runes of Fate discipline. Harlequin transport models in an Ynnari detachment lose every instance of the Saith keyword. Ynnari Harlequins cannot be given the pivotal role upgrades. and Ynnari Drukhari cannot be given any Lords of Cormorar favored retinue upgrades. Your army cannot include Phoenix Lords, Anrath units, Avatars of Cain, Solitaires, or named characters that don't have the Ynnari keyword in an Ynnari detachment. So basically you just get a Vrain and the other guy, the fake Laughing God guy. You cannot include, transports. Azuryani units can only embark within Azuryani Ynnari transport models if they also have the Ynnari keyword. Drukhari models can only embark within Drukhari Ynnari transport models if they have the Ynnari keyword. Harlequin units can only embark in Harlequin Ynnari transport models if they have the Ynnari keyword. And the Vizarch and Ivrain can embark in any Ynnari transport model. So basically no mixing and matching. If you want to stick things in your, your Wave Serpent, they need to be in like Azuryani, not Drukhari and stuff like that. So no mixing in that way. And then Murderers and Mercenaries. When Drukhari Scourges and Incubi pledge themselves to the cause of Ynnari, their devotion is greatly rewarded. So you're playing a match play game, a game that uses a point limit, then the point value of these go up. So Incubi go up 4 points per model, and Scourges go up 2 points per model. Basically saying they're too good for their points. And if you're playing with power rating, that's 1 extra to the power rating for every 5 models in those units. Your attributes are Strength from Death at the start of the fight phase. If a unit is with its attributes within engagement, it can fight first. And each time an attack is made by a model with this attribute, if its units below starting strength, add 1 to a hit roll. So once someone dies, they get tougher. Your warlord traits Warden of Souls, sort of the command phase, you get a wound back. And when this warlord is selected to fight, if any enemy units within engagement range of this warlord are below starting strength, until the end of the phase, add 1 to your strength and attacks. So if you're fighting wounded units, +1 strength and attack. Your Relics, the Lost Shroud, -1 damage if you get attacked, and if it's damage of 1, unmodified, add 1 to your armor save. And then your 1 strat is Inevitable Fate. Use a stratagem when an Ynnari unit from your army is selected to shoot or fight until the end of the phase. Each time a model that in that unit makes an attack that targets a unit that was below half strength, when that model's unit was selected to shoot or fight, get +1 to wound. So +1 to wound when fighting wounded units. And that's it. Like that's the Ynnari section now. They went from being a big deal in 8th to cool, mix some units, but really don't mix them. And also, here's 1 attribute, and then 1 item, and you get to be tough-ish for Eldar. Example army, taking a Harlequins patrol with a battalion. And we're into Harlequins. Okay, so if you take a Harlequin detachment, here's what you get. You get the lead role. Saith units in your army gain the Saith characterizations ability, and troops in a Harlequin detachment gain OBSEC. If your army includes any troop masters, if your warlord is a Harlequin model, that warlord must be a troop master model. And then the Saiths. If your army is Battleforged, Saith units in your Harlequin detachment gain access to the following Saith rules, provided every Saith unit in your army is following a Saith, is following the same one. And units in Harlequin detachment is following the same one, and then they're referred to as a Saith detachment. So your characterizations basically are, they're just Craftworlds. So you get Light, Dark, Twilight, and that's it. So there's just those 3. So you get to pick basically a Saith, which is a Craftworld kind of, for your Harlequin troops. So, Light, your characterization is the Blaze of Light. Each time an attack is made against a unit with this characterization, if the terms are so confusing. If the attacking model is more than 12 away, 1 to 3s to hit always fail. And then each time a unit with this characterization makes a normal move or advances, it counts as having made stationary. So you're always standing still, and 1 to 3s always fail to hit you outside 12, because you're blinding everybody with your big flashy lights. Your warlord traits the Player of the Light. This warlord is eligible to perform a heroic intervention if you're inside 6 and 5 vertically, and you can move 6. Also, when you do so, or if you charge, you get +1 strength and attacks. Relics the Shadowstone. You get 3 to your bearer's auras, and each time a bearer successfully manifests a power from the Phantasmancy discipline, it gets +3 range. Capricious Reflections is your stratagem. Use stratagem in your opponent's charge phase when a light unit from your army, because you won't gain the light keyword, basically. That's the keyword you gain. Is selected as the target of a charge. If that unit is not within engagement range of any enemy units, it can make a normal move up to 6 inches. Until the end of the phase, that unit cannot fire, Overwatch, or set defend, and your opponent can then select new targets for that charge. So basically, you can just run away for a CP. Dark Deeds. Each time a model of this characterization is destroyed by a melee attack, if that model has not fought this phase, do not remove them from play, they can fight. Each time a model with this characteristic makes a melee attack, its AP is improved by 1. So +1 AP, fight when you die. Your warlord traits Player of the Dark. Each time a warlord makes a melee attack, on a modified wound roll of 5+, take a mortal wound, in addition to normal damage. So exploding 5+ mortal wounds. And then your relics, the Ghoul Mask, dark model only. In your opponent's psychic phase, the bearer can attempt to deny 1 psych powers if they were a psyker. If they are a psyker, they get an extra 1. And the bearer has the following ability, Hideous Form Aura. While within 3, you lose your obsec. So turning off obsec's kinda neat. And then your strategic ploy is the Silken Knife. Use a stratagem at the start of the charge phase. Select 1 enemy unit until the end of the phase. Each time that unit is selected to target of a charge by a dark unit, they can't fire Overwatch, set defend. So for CP, no set defend, no Overwatch. And then Twilight. Twilight Falls. Each time a unit with this characteristic fights, if it made a charge move, was charged, or heroically intervened, add 1 to its attacks. And then each time a model in the with this characterization makes a pylon or consolidate, they move an additional 2. Then your warlord trait is the Player of the Twilight. While this warlord is on the battlefield, each time you spend a command point, you roll a d6, and on a 6 you gain a command point. And then while this warlord's on the battlefield, each time you roll 4 more dice for a Luck of the Laughing God roll, you gain a command point. Oh, I should actually go through and show that army roll. As I did the Craftworld ones, I forgot to do the Statith ones. So all Harlequins have the following. You gain 4+ invul. Each time you make an normal move, advance, fall back, or charge. Until that's finished, you can move horizontally through other models and train features. And each time a melee attack is made for this unit, subtract 1 from the hit roll. So last one to hit in melee, move through terrain, because you flip belt basically and get a 4+ invul. And then Rising Crescendo, you can charge even if you advance. The unit's eligible to shoot and charge in a turn when they fall back. And then Luck of the Laughing God, it's basically your version of Strands of Fate. If every unit in your army has the Harlequins keyword and is performing the same statith, then at the start of the battle round, you can gain a number of luck rerolls depending on the size of the battle you're playing. So Combat Patrol 1, Incursion 2, Strike Force 3, Onslaught 4. And basically, in addition, you can make a Luck of the Laughing God roll to try and increase the number of rerolls gained. To do so, roll 66. If every result is unique, you gain a number of additional luck rolls equal to the number of d6 rolls. So you can bet how many. You can always get 1 basically by rolling 1d6. 2 is less likely. You get 1 in 6 chance of double. No, it's not 1 in 6. It's 6. It's 1 in. No, it is 1. There's 6 combinations. So out of 36, that'd be 1 in 6. You have 1 in 6 chance basically of a double. And then from there, you can ante in more dice to get more rerolls. And you use it on hit roll, wound roll, damage roll, saving throw, or advance roll, made for a unit with the Luck of the God abilities. So, yeah, this is the only time it gets referred to already, which is why I didn't think it was a big deal, but I forgot there's something you can get an additional one here for. While your warlord's in the battlefield, each time you roll 4 more dice for Luck of the Laughing God roll, you gain 1 command point. So if you're always betting 4 dice, you get extra CPs as well. And then your relic is the Twilight Fang. Your power sword turns into +2 strength, -3 damage 2. And its ability is each time you fight, until the fight's resolved, add the current battle round number to your attack characteristic. So you end up being strength 5 -3, 2 damage, and on the 5th battle round, probably having 10 attacks. And then Malicious Frenzy is your battle tactic. Use it when a Twilight unit from your army is selected to fight. Each time a model in that unit makes an attack, and a modified hit roll of 6 automatically wounds. So of the 3, I mean, always being missed on 1 to 3 outside 12 is cool, but you're -1 hit in melee already. I like this one. I like extra rerolls. I like +1 attack. All right, we're into regular stratagems now, and boy howdy, are there a lot. Oh God. A lot of them are like tied to specific things, like use stratagem when an Azriani, Harlequin, or Ynnari army unit from your army is selected to fight. If you target Slaanesh, you can reroll the hit roll and wound roll. So when you're fighting Slaanesh for a CP, you can fight them. You have your standard stuff too. Champion of the Aeldari, you get an additional warlord basically, and they gain a warlord trait. Basically, they're only the warlord for the warlord trait, not for anything else. Treasures, you get extra relics. Relics to the shrines. Exarchs can have additional Exarch powers and relics. Seer Council, your Seer Council can select 1 Farseer and select 1 Warlock for your army. That has 2 or more models in the unit. While the Farseer model is within 6 of the Warlocks, add 1 to Psychic Test taken for that Farseer, and while that model is within 3, enemy models cannot target that Farseer with range attacks. You don't use stratagem once, so basically you get a Seer Council added to you. The Avatar Resurgent for 2 CPs is cool, using the fight phase. When an avatar of Cain model from your army that's not been selected to fight's been destroyed, do not remove it from the battlefield, add 2 to its attacks, and it can fight after it's finished making its attacks, and then it's destroyed. So basically, if you're about to kill the avatar for 2 CPs, he fights with +2 attacks and goes down super fighting. Or like the Phoenix Reborn, use stratagem when a Phoenix Lord model is destroyed. You can choose to roll a d6 at the end of the phase instead of using any rules that are triggered by it being destroyed. And if you do so, then on a 4+, set the model back up anywhere in the battlefield as close as possible to where they were destroyed, not within engagement range, with D3 wounds remaining. So for 1 CP, you can basically bring back your Phoenix Lord. Linked fire is kind of cool. Your fire prisms can link to each other. The model makes 2 additional attacks to the weapon for each other fire prism model you select, and then invulnerable saving throws cannot be made against attacks made by that model's fire prism. So linking your fire prisms is kind of neat. That's an old school thing actually, from like early editions of the game where they would triangulate their fire. I think it was used in Epic and stuff as well. But no invols against fire prisms with 2 extra attacks is amazing. It's 1 or 2 other friendly fire prism models within 12 invisible of the model. Feigned Retreat uses stratagem in the movement phase when as a Harlequin or Ynnari unit from memory falls back. You can declare for that unit to be eligible to shoot this turn or be eligible to charge this turn. If you select both, it costs 2, otherwise it costs 1. Some other cool ones. Wireweave Grenades. Your Shroud Runners can use this. The enemy unit suffers a number of mortal wounds. So at the start of your movement phase or charge phase, select 1 enemy unit within 12 of the Shroud Runners and roll a d3. That unit suffers a number of mortal wounds equal to the result, and then until the end of the turn, subtract the result from that unit's move. Until the end of the phase, your opponent must subtract that result from charge rolls as well. So for every mortal wound you do, they're -1 to charge and move. Grenade packs for Swooping Hawks. Basically, all the special abilities for the various Aspect Warriors got lumped in now as strats. So like your Starhawk missile for your aircraft, your Resonator shield, fusion charges for your Fire Dragons. Using the fight phase when a Fire Dragon unit from your army selected to fight, select 1 model in the unit. That model can only make 1 attack this phase and must target enemy vehicle, but they take 2 d3 mortal wounds. So for 1 CP, hey Knight, blah, take 2 d3 mortal wounds. Stuff for your Harlequins, Prismatic Blur, because it's basically combining all of the stuff from the Harlequin one with the Aeldari one. Use Stratagem in the movement phase when a Harlequin unit from army advances more than 8. Until the start of your next command phase, they have a 3+ invul. So for 2 CPs, big fat unit of Harlequins has 3+ invuls. Or Virtuosos of the Webway. Use the end of your movement phase, select a Harlequin unit that's not within engagement range and put them in strategic reserve for 1 CP. No price too steep. Use this in the fight phase when a Harlequin's character from your army that has not been selected to fight is destroyed. Do not remove that model from play. Can fight after the attacking model's units finish making attacks. If the model is a solitaire model or is destroyed by a chaos unit, until the end of the phase they get +1 attack and strength, and then they get to fight. Dramatic Entrance, great name. Use Stratagem in the Heroic Intervention step of your opponent's charge phase. Select 1 Harlequin infantry unit from your army. Till the end of the phase, that unit's eligible to perform a Heroic Intervention within 5 or 6. Basically, it can move 5 or 6. I like this one. Mocking Laughter. Use with a Death Jester and pick a unit within 12 of them. Your opponent cannot select that unit for the Insane Bravery stratagem, nor can any rule that would let them reroll a morale test for that unit be used. If a morale test for that unit is failed, any action they are performing automatically fails. So basically the Death Jester makes fun of them and they don't get any of their bonuses. Yeah, most of that stuff's Harlequin stuff. All right, Exarch powers. So these basically are allowing you to upgrade your Exarchs, kind of like upgrading Space Marine characters or buying any like bonuses for characters in other armies. So they have point value costs or power rating increase if you're playing with power. And each one of your Aspect Warrior units can have 1 of these. So if you have like 3 units of Aspect Warriors, all 3 of them can't have an upgraded Exarch. They can have 1 of the following Exarch powers, but different Aspect Warrior shrines can have an upgraded Exarch basically in them. You can also select any Crimson Hunter unit from your army and upgrade that model to be an Exarch. When you do so, select 1 of the appropriate Exarch powers listed on the right for that model. So basically, your units don't come with Exarchs anymore. They come with just regular troopers, and when you buy the Exarch, the model unit that you tap as the Exarch gets a wound, gets a ballistic skill, and an attack. sorry, depends on who they are. They all get a wound. If they are Crimson Hunter, Dark Reaper, Swooping Hawk, or Fire Dragons, they get +1 ballistic skill. If they're Striking Scorpion, Howling Banshee, Shining Spears, or Warp Spiders, they get +1 attack. Your army or Crusade force cannot include more than one unit with the same Exarch power, or more than one Crimson Hunter model upgraded to be an Exarch. A Crusade force cannot start with units upgraded. I think that's it. Whenever you're mustering your army, you can upgrade aspect warrior units from your army to contain Exarch models by giving them Exarch power. That's it. And each unit can only have one Exarch power. So sorry, you can have more than one Exarch, they just can't have the same power more than once. They couldn't all have Eyes of Cain, for instance. And the Crimson Hunters themselves only get to be a single Exarch. So the Crimson Hunters, 30 points, Eyes of Cain. If you shoot someone that can fly, you automatically hit. That's crazy. Strafing Assault, 20 points. If you make a ranged attack, the target does not receive the benefit cover. And then Swooping Evasion, you get a 5+ invul for 25. Your Dire Avengers can have defensive stance. In your shooting phase, while this unit contains a Dire Avenger Exarch models, and that unit can make attacks with ranged weapons even while they're in engagement range of enemy units, and can do so if other units, friendly units, are also in engagement range. If they do so, these attacks can only targets in engagement range. So basically, you can shoot like you're a vehicle. Shredding Fire, you get your Shuriken ability on a 5+ instead of a 6. And then Stand Firm, you get OBSEC, even if you don't already have it. And if you do already have it, you count as 2 models, and then add 1 to your leadership. Warp Spiders can have Spider's Lair. Once per battle at the end of your movement phase, if this unit's wholly within area terrain, you can select for the terrain feature to be webbed. If you do so until the start of your next turn, it counts as difficult ground, and each time an enemy model ends any type of move inside of it, excluding pile-in and consolidations, on a 2+, they take D3 mortal wounds. So whenever you move inside of it, you just get shredded. Surprise Assault, if this unit was set up preparing a sudden assault and contains a Warp Spider Exarch model, when it's set up on the battlefield for the first time, until the end of the turn, each time a model in that unit is selected to shoot, it makes 1 additional attack with its Death Spinner. And then Web of Deceit, once per battle, if that unit contains a Warp Spider Exarch, instead of making a battle focus move, just take them off the battlefield and stick them anywhere you want, not within 9. So you basically go into your Warp Drift Generator. Shining Spears, Expert Lancers. In the fight phase, each time a model in that unit makes an attack, if this unit's making a charge move this turn and contains an Exarch model, add 1 to its hit. Heart Strike, when you make a melee attack, an unmodified wound roll of 5+ and fix a mortal wound in addition to normal damage in your Exarch. And then Lightning Attacks, when you make a consolidation move, if it contains an Exarch, you get to move 6 inches instead of the normal 3. Howling Banshees get Graceful Advance, get a 4+ invul against melee attacks. Nerve Shredding Shriek, each time you finish a charge move, you can select 1 enemy unit with an engagement range and roll a d6. On a 2+, they take a mortal wound, and until the end of the turn, subtract 1 from their combat attrition tests. From your Exarch, basically. And then Piercing Strike, add 1 to the damage characteristic of attacks made by your Banshee Exarch. And that's melee attacks only. Striking Scorpions get Crushing Blow. Each time you attack a non-Titanic unit with a melee attack, if it hits scored, it automatically wounds. So no auto-wounding knights, unfortunately. Deadly Ambush. While this model contains a Striking Scorpion Exarch model, while this unit contains a Striking Scorpion Exarch model and is wholly within an area terrain feature, each time a melee attack is made by this unit, add 1 to its hit roll and improve its AP by 1. And then Scorpion Sting. Each time a unit is selected to fight, if this unit contains a Striking Scorpion Exarch model until that fight's resolved, replace the ability of this unit's Striking Scorpion models Mana Blasters with, each time this bear makes a melee attack targeting a non-vehicle unit, a modified wound roll of 5+ does a mortal wound in addition to normal damage. Dark Reapers, Bringer of Death. If this unit's Dark Reaper Exarch equipped with a Reaper Launcher or Shuriken Cannon, it gets +1 attack. And if it's got a Aeldari Missile Launcher or Tempest Launcher, no benefits of cover. Focused Fire, +1 to the wound roll for your ranged attacks. And then Reaper's Reach, when this unit contains a Dark Reaper Exarch model, models in that unit don't suffer the penalty to hit rolls for firing heavy weapons if they move. And your Fire Dragons, Blazing Fury, +4 to your weapon ranges. Woohoo, that's good. Burning Heat, while this unit contains a Fire Dragon Exarch model, each time a model in that unit makes a ranged attack, the target's unit within 9, it automatically wounds. That's really good. And then Dragon's Bite. Each time this model's Fire Dragon Exarch model makes a ranged attack and targets a vehicle or monster that's within half range, the attack is made with a Dragon Fusion Gun or Fire Pike, +2 damage. If the attack's made with a Dragon's Breath Flamer, +1 damage to the attack, and you can reroll the wound roll. So 2 damage flamers that reroll wounds, that's pretty legit. And then your swooping hawks, they gain rapid deployment. You can shoot if you fall back, suppressing fire in your shooting phase. After this unit's shot, you can select 1 enemy unit within target that was a target of a range attack made by this swooping hawk Exarch model, whose name is Cyril, and roll 3d6. If the result is greater than that unit's leadership characteristic until the start of the next shooting phase, they cannot overwatch or set to defend or perform any actions, and any actions they're performing failed. Being able to reach out and stop actions with guns is going to be rated fairly high, I think. Winged evasion, especially if you yourself could do an action, shoot, and then stop someone else from shooting. Winged evasion, each time this unit is selected as the target of a ranged attack, if it contains a swooping hawk Exarch model until the start of the end of the phase, each time a ranged attack is made against that unit, subtract 1 from the hit roll. So you must want to hit. And then for your Harlequins, you get kind of the same thing, which are called pivotal rolls, and you get them for your Troop Masters, Death Jesters, Solitaires, and Shadow Seers. So the Troop Master can get Prince of Light. Each time a friendly Sith core unit within 6 of this model makes a charge roll, add +1 to the result. Queen of Shards, each time this model makes a melee attack on an unmodified wound roll of 5+, no invols, that's pretty cool. And Veiled King, if you don't target a vehicle or monster in melee, an unmodified wound roll of 2+ is always successful. Your Death Jester gets a Harvester of Torment. Each time this model makes a ranged attack, an unmodified hit roll of 6 does 3 additional hits. Boy! That's amazing. Lord of Crystal Bones, -2 to your move. If you score any hits against either a non-vehicle or monster unit, -2 to your move, and you can't fire Overwatch or set to defend. I wish it canceled actions. If it also canceled actions, that'd be amazing. And then Rift Ghoul, whenever you make an attack, there's no cover. An unmodified wound roll of 4+ does a mortal wound in addition to normal damage. For the Solitaire, each time an attack is made against this model, it's -1 to hit and can't be re-rolled. The Spectre of Despair, during deployment, you must set up this model haunting the foe instead of setting him on the battlefield. In the reinforcement step of one of your movement phases, you can set this model up anywhere in the battlefield more than 9 from the enemy. And each time a charge roll is made, roll additional d6 and discard the die. So a very cool get to ambush kind of ability. And then Thirsty Darkness, each time this model advances, do not make an advance roll. Instead, add 6 to your move, and each time this model piles in or consolidates, you can move an additional 3 inches. You get the Agent of Pandemonium as an aura. While enemy units within 6 of this model, subtract 1 from the attack characteristic of models in that unit. The Gloom Spider, in your command phase, select 1 enemy unit within 12 of this model. Until your next command phase, enemy units cannot cannot benefit from the enemy unit's aura abilities. So basically, you pick somebody and their auras get turned off. And then Mirror Architect, it's an aura. While a friendly Scythe unit in your army is within 6 of this model, each time an enemy unit is selected to shoot, when measuring the range to any model in that Scythe unit, that model is considered to be an additional 6 inches away from the shooting model. So basically, you're making them further away for the purposes of their core rules. All right, into the matched play rules. So, yeah, here we go. Some neat stuff here. Some stuff that's going to be popular, some stuff that's a bit harder to do. So for instance, Warcraft, this one's probably going to be fairly popular, but you do have to get Psychers. If you have a Jetbike Farseer, actually a Jetbike Warlock maybe is probably the way to do this. Basically, all of the objectives on the table are eligibly scryed. It's a Warp Charge 4 action. You get 3 VPs if it's complete. So each one, if you get within range of the objective marker and scry it, you're going to score 3. Do that 5 times per game, you're going to max your score. The other one, No Mercy, No Respite. Score VP if you kill a unit in melee with an Aspect Warrior unit. Score additional VP if a different unit destroyed a unit with shooting, a different Aspect Warrior unit. So basically, you have to have a shooty Aspect Warrior unit kill something and a fighty one kill something. And if both of them do it, you score 2 bonus VPs. So you get 4 basically at the battle round if you do both. So if an Aspect Warrior unit kills something in melee and another Aspect Warrior kills something in shooting, you're gonna get 4 points. Otherwise, they're each worth 1. So it's basically worth 1 or 4, because you'll never get 2 from it. And then Shadow Operations, that one you could just do 4 times per game and win, as opposed to the Warcraft one. And in the new match play rules, you can only pick one of these. So there's gonna be a winner. There's gonna be the one you design your army to do. I don't know, with the character rules, I feel like the Warcraft one's the easiest, but you gotta get near objectives. Psychic Phase happens after movement, so you can just fly because you can't run and do a thing, but you can move 16 on a jet bike with the Warlock and take a psychic action. Now the one thing about this one is it gets 1 point harder each time you do it. So by the end, if you've scryed 4 times, it's an 8+ warp charge, but you've got Strands of Fate, right? So you can make one of those dice a 6, the other one just has to be a 2, you're good to go. As long as you Strands of Fate the right thing. But the Warpcraft one feels relatively easy. Then Shadow Operations, this is the other one. This one would be the best if the Shroud Runners had the Ranger keyword, but they don't have the Ranger keyword. So this one is units in your army getting the following action. It's Scout the enemy. If you're outside your deployment zone and outside your opponent's deployment zone, it's worth 2 if you perform this action. If you're inside your opponent's deployment zone, it's worth 4. If you are a Ranger unit, it's automatically completed at the end of your turn. Otherwise, it's completed at the start of your next turn. So, but Shroud Runners don't have the Ranger keyword for some reason, even though they're run by Rangers. So, cool. I guess you could get a Ranger unit in there and have them hide, which means that you're just scoring 4 per round in the opponent's deployment zone. But you really want to try and get the Shroud Runner unit probably over there. It's basically the Nachman, Retrieve Nachman data, or the Retrieve Octarius data, which is the easier one to do, because it's end of turn. That's worth 4 if it's in the deployment zone. So small unit Shroud Runners or unit Rangers. And it's between those 2, Scry Features and Scout the Enemy, I think you're going to see the good ones. You're going to see get picked, actually. And then Battlefield Supremacy, the Hidden Path. If you select the secondary objective and your army contains a way gate, that unit cannot be set up within 6 inches of your deployment zone. If your army does not contain a web gate model, in your first command phase, select one objective marker that is not within 6 of your deployment zone at the end of each of your command phases. If your army includes a webway gate, score a number of victory points equal to the current battle round. If a unit from your army, excluding webgate units, is within 3 inches of the webgate unit, and there are no enemy models within 3 of it, and if your army does not include a webway gate, and you control the selected objective marker with an Azriani unit from your army, score a number of victory points equal to the battle round. So you take a webway, you defend the webway gate at that point. If you don't have it, then if that selected objective marker is not within your deployments, it's not within 6 of your deployment zone, and you hold it, basically it's going to be scaling for points. That's the one where, like, these ones seem kind of, you can build your army around it. Because it's so mission dependent, I don't feel like it'll be as popular, right? Because the objectives can be all over the place and in really inconvenient spots. Whereas your opponent's deployment zone, and there's going to be objectives for the Warcraft one, and usually there's always 5, makes those a little more attractive. I honestly think Scout the Enemy would be the most attractive one, because any unit can do it. And if you have Rangers units, which are troops anyway, so they're compulsory in some battalions and stuff, then you're probably just going to do it. The Harlequins ones, you get a deadly performance. It's progressive. At the end of your turn, score 3 if 2 or more of these are true. A Harlequin troop or unit from your army controls an objective that it didn't control at the start of the turn. It's wholly within your deployment zone, so your opponent's deployment zone. 2 or more enemy units were destroyed by an attack made by a ranged weapon by Harlequin units, and 3 or more units were destroyed by an attack made by melee weapons made by a Harlequin model from your army this turn. So 2 of those things have to be true. Either control an objective marker you didn't control before, or be in your opponent's deployment zone, or kill 2 units with shooting, or kill 3 units in melee. The last 2 are the hard ones. Unless you're coming and going off objectives in order to score it, and be in your opponent's deployment zone. So I guess you could. And then Battlefield Supremacy, take your places. If you select the secondary, after both sides have finished deploying, you must set 1 additional objective marker in your opponent's deployment zone. Then your opponent must set up 1 additional marker in your deployment zone, and 1 additional marker within 6 of the center of the battlefield. So you've got a million objectives all of a sudden. They cannot be set within 9 of each other, 6 of a battlefield edge, or 1 of an objective marker. These take your place objective markers represent the positions that must be taken by Harlequins for their performance, but do not count as objective markers for any rules other than this secondary. They don't count for the primaries at all, so they don't count for hold 1, hold 2, hold more. At the end of your turn, score 2 VPs if you control 2 of these. At the end of your turn, score 4 VPs if you control all 3. Not the easiest. Again, both of these not super easy to do. And then Warpcraft, Weed the Veil. Your Shadow Seer can attempt the following psychic action. Warp Charge 4. 1 Shadow Seer model from your army can attempt to perform this if they're within 12 of an enemy unit that has not yet been veiled. If the psychic action is successfully completed, select 1 enemy unit that's not been veiled by your army and is within 12 of the Shadow Seer that completed the action. That enemy is said to have been veiled by your army, and the Warp Charge value for this action is increased by 1 for the rest of the battle. And it scores 3. So you're trying to just tap enemy units. So as long as there's 5 units on the table, and you can weave the veil on them, and your Shadow Sphere doesn't die, this feels like the one. So you hide the Shadow Sphere behind a wall somewhere, and then just keep on tapping units that have to come close to you for whatever reason. It just outclasses these ones, because your opponent's gonna have units in their army, and they're gonna get veiled, and you're gonna score points. So Weave Veil feels like the one you take. All right, we're into Relics. Now there are not that many. There's 2 pages and lots of central art here. Now 3 pages. So for a gun, Shuriken Pistol, Kurnos' bow, pistol 3, 18-inch range, strength 5. If it successfully wounds the target, inflicts a mortal wound and the attack sequence ends. So just extra mortal wounds. Oh, sorry, it turns into mortal wounds. The Phoenix Gem, the first time you're destroyed, roll a die on a 2+. You get to come back with D3 wounds as close as possible to your previous position. The Shard of Ynnari replaces your Banshee Blade or Starglaive, +1, -3/1 damage. But every time you fight, you get D3 +3 extra attacks. Fall Shoe's Wing. Your move is 12 and you fly. At the end of your movement phase, select 1 enemy unit within that you moved across, and on a 2+, they take D3 mortal wounds. So you get to run over and wound people. And then a Banshee Blade or Starglaive, +3, -4/2 damage. Each time the stack is made with this weapon, a modified hit roll of 6 does a mortal wound on top of normal damage. The Sunstorm gives you a bike. Your move is changed to 20 and you gain Obsec, which is kind of cool. The Aegis of Eldinesh. So that's the one you give the Warlock or Farseer that you want to go have to touch all the buttons. The Aegis of Eldinesh, Autarchs only, save of 2+, and -1 damage. And the Weeping Stones, roll additional D6 for Strands of Fate. Storied Sword replaces the Power Sword, +2, -3/2 damage. And you auto hit. And then Suit of Hidden Knives, I like this one. Harlequin only. At the end of the fight phase, you make 3 additional attacks that don't target a Titanic unit, and as long as you hit, they take a mortal wound. So just 3 2+ mortal wounds at the end of the fight phase against anybody you're fighting. That's a way to kill lots of things. Crescendo, Harlequin model with Shuriken Pistol only. This relic replaces the Shuriken Pistol. It's 4 -3/2 damage. Pistol 6 with Shuriken, but it's only Harlequins. Kegorak's Rose, it is a Harlequin's Kiss, +2, -2 to 3 damage. You can reroll the wound roll. The bearer has the Harlequin's Kiss keyword if they carry this. The Star Mist Raiment for Harlequin only. Each time a model attack is made against the bearer, you can't reroll. That attack's hit and wound rolls can't be rerolled. And then once per battle in your command phase, you can declare that the bearer will mimic Alos, and you get a 3+ invul until your next command phase. The Laughing God's Eye, it's an aura, 6-inch range. Each time a model in that unit would lose a wound as a result of a mortal wound, roll a d6, and on a 5+, it's not lost. The Avenging Blade, melee, +2 strength. Each time attack is made with the weapon, if it successfully wounds, you do a mortal wound, and the attack sequence ends. And then Dragon's Fury. Each time the bearer's unit is selected as the target of a charge, you're -2 to the charge roll for your Fire Dragon Exarch model only. So you do have to give it the Exarch upgrade to get that one. The Shadow Sing for a Striking Scorpion, +3, it's your Biting Blade, +3, -2/2 damage, and 2 extra attacks. The Crone Scream for your Banshee Exarch. When you charge on a 2+, the enemy suffers D3 mortal wounds, an additional 1 mortal wound for each charge move the bearer made this battle. So the longer you scream, the more damage you do. The Phoenix Plume for a Spooking Hawk Exarch model, get a 4+ invul, and every time you would lose a wound on a 5+, it's not lost. The Spider's Bite for your Warp Spider Exarch model. Your Power Blades get +2, -4/2 damage. And each time an attack is made with this weapon, an unmodified wound roll of 6, the damage is 3. And you got Kane's Lance. Each time the bearer finishes a charge move, select 1 enemy unit with engagement, and on a 4+, the unit takes D3 mortal wounds, and the unit is not eligible to fight this phase until after everybody else has done so. And then your Dark Reaper Exarch gets the Shrine Skull. If an enemy unit is destroyed by an attack made by the bearer, then they get -1 to their combat attrition. And then you get 6 Asuryani Warlord traits and 3 Harlequin ones. So your Asuryani ones, Ambush of Blades. In your command phase, select 1 friendly Craftworld core unit or Craftworld character within 9 until the start of your next command phase. Each time they make a melee attack, its AP is improved by 1. Walker of Many Paths. Once per turn, reroll 1 hit wound or damage roll made by the Warlord. Falcon Swiftness, +2 move. And you ignore difficult ground. And each time you make a battle focus move, you're always moving 6 inches. That's a cool one. Falcon Swiftness is handy for like a mobile support character. Fate's Weapon, Fate's Messenger. Once per turn, when a saving throw is failed, you're damage 0. That one's amazing. It's basically the apothecary thing for the infiltrated marines. Mark of the Incomparable Hunter. Each time you make a ranged attack, +1 strength, and unmodified wound roll of 6 does a mortal wound in addition to normal damage. The Seer of the Shifting Vector. While the warlord's in the battlefield, each time you spend a command point on a d6 roll of 6, you gain a command point. And then your Harlequin ones, favorite of Kegarash. Once per turn, when you make a hit roll, wound roll, or saving throw for this warlord, after making the roll, you can just treat it as a 6. Just why not? It's a 6. The Fractal Storm. Each time an attack is made against this warlord, your opponent cannot reroll the hit roll, wound roll, or damage roll. And a Foot in the Future. Each time this warlord advances, do not make a roll. Instead, add d3+3 to the move characteristic of this warlord. Each time they make a charge roll, add 6 to the result. That's crazy. And then your name characters, Eldari gets Fate Reader, Illic Night Spear gets Mark of the Incomparable Hunter, Prince Ariel gets Enduring Resolve, the Vizark gets Walker of Many Paths, and Evrain gets the Warden of Souls. So interesting that the Phoenix Lords aren't named characters anymore. They just can't have warlord traits or relics, which I think is a neat way of handling them. Because they're just these faceless Exarchs that are trapped in a suit of armor that everyone's worn a million times. And probably smells terrible. All right, disciplines. We got Phantasmancy discipline. This is the Harlequin one. The Runes of Battle, and then Runes of Fate, Runes of Fortune, and the Revenant discipline. Oh my God, there's so much more. It never stops. This book just keeps going. So Twilight Paths, Blessing. Cast on 6, select a friendly save with core or save with character unit within 6. The unit can immediately make a normal move, fall back, or advance. As if it was your movement phase, but they're not eligible to declare charge. The Fog of Dreams, Warp Charge 6. Choose a friendly core or save with unit within 12 of the Psyker. Until the end of your next Psychic phase, the unit can be selected as the target of a ranged attack, unless it's the closest or is within 12. So basically, you hide them. Mirror of Minds, Witchfire, cast on 7. Pick an enemy within 18, and they take D3 mortal wounds, then roll off with your opponent. If you win or draw that roll, the enemy takes a mortal wound. Repeat until either they've taken 6 mortal wounds or your opponent beats you in the roll. Veil of Tears is a Malediction on a 7. Select an enemy unit within 18 invisible. Until you start your next psychic phase, models in that unit cannot target Sith units from your army unless they're that are more than 18 inches away. So you just can't shoot anything outside 18. Shards of Light, Witchfire, casts on 6. Select an enemy unit within 18 invisible. Take a mortal wound. If it's a vehicle or monster, or it contains 6 or more, it takes D3 mortal wounds instead. Until the next psychic phase, it's -2 leadership. And then Webway Dance, casts on 7. If it's manifested, it's an aura. While a friendly Sadith unit in your army is within 6, each time they would lose a wound on a 6+, their wound is not lost. All right, on to the regular Harlequin stuff. Runes of Battle, Conceal and Reveal. Conceal, Blessing, select a friendly Craftworld with an 18. They gain light cover. Reveal, Malediction, select an enemy unit with an 18. Whenever you make an attack against them, no benefits of cover. So you can either pull cover off something or put it on something. And it casts on 6. Embolden, Horrify on 7. Embolden, +2 leadership, fight first at the start of the fight phase. And then Horror, Malediction, both these are range 18. -2 leadership and fight last in the fight phase. Enhance and Drain, cast on 6. Enhance is a Blessing. You get +1 to hit if it's within 18 until starting your next psychic phase. And then only in melee though, sorry. And then Drain, Malediction, until starting next psychic phase. Each time a model that unit makes a melee attack, subtract 1 from the hit rolls. So you can either add or subtract hit rolls in melee. And then Protect Jinx, it is Protect Blessing. Select a friendly Craftworld in 18 until the start of your next psychic phase. Their save goes up by 1. And then Jinx, the save goes down by 1. Both friendly or enemy within 18. And then Quicken Restrain, cast on 6. You pick a Azriani core or character unit within 18. Actually, you can't do a character unit with Protect and Jinx. Actually, or Enhance and Drain. Embolden and Horrify you can do on a character. Conceal, Reveal you can't. That you can immediately make a normal move, advance or fall back as if it were the movement phase. If it does so, it can't shoot or charge. And then Restrain, Malediction, until the start of your next movement phase, have their move characteristic, and they cannot perform any actions, and actions fail. It's another way to get rid of actions in this army. Empower and Enervate. Cast on 7. Friendly core within 18 of the Psyker can add 1 to the wound roll and melee attacks. And Enervate. Select an enemy within 18 of the Psyker until your next Psych phase. Each time a model in that unit makes a melee attack, it's -1 to wound. So a nice toolbox of buff debuff in the Runes of Battle. Runes of Fate Guide. So this is the ever popular spell. It used to be all the reroll the hits. It's a blessing. Cast on 6. Friendly core or character within 18 of the Psyker. You can reroll the hit roll, and if the resulting psych test is 10 or more, select 1 friendly Craftworld or as Ynnari within 24 instead. So it's got an 18-inch range, but 24 if you get a good roll. Doom. Reroll the wound roll. Again, increases range if it's more than 10. Fortune. You get a 5+ wound shrug. And again, if it's more than 10, you get to increase the wound roll. So it's cast on 6, cast on 7, cast on 6. Executioner. It's warp charge of 7. Select 1 enemy character unit with a wound characteristic of 9 or less. Select 1 enemy unit excluding character units with a wound characteristic of 9 or less within 18 of the Psyker. That enemy suffers D3 mortal wounds. If any enemies were destroyed as a result of the mortal wounds, they suffer an additional D3 mortal wounds. And if you cast 10 or more, the range is 24. Will of Azurian. It's a blessing with a casting of 6. Select a friendly core character within 18 of the Psyker. They get Obsec. They pass morale automatically. And if they're performing an action, they can make attacks to range weapons without it failing. If you cast on 8 or more, it's within 24. And then Mind War. Select an enemy character within 18. Roll a d6 and add your leadership. To the result of the roll, your opponent then rolls a d6 and adds theirs. If your total is greater, you suffer a number of mortal wounds equal to the difference. If the result of the second psych test was 10 or more, you can roll 2d3 instead of 1d6. Add the result of the leadership characteristic to the Psyker. Runes of Fortune, 2d3 is actually statistically slightly worse because you have a lower chance of spiking high. You have your minimum goes up, but your maximum actually becomes less good. So you can roll 2d3 is important because I think I would still take the d6 roll just to be able to spike high. Fateful Divergence, it's a blessing. We're in Runes of Fortune now. Cast on 6, gain a command point. Witch Strike, cast on 5. Select an enemy Psyker unit. If this Psyker is an Anrath unit, you must select a Wayseeker model. Until the end of the next psychic phase, each time a selected model makes a melee attack, after successful wound rolls, it does a mortal wound and the attack sequence ends. So all your melee attacks become mortal wounds basically, but then no additional damage. Ghost Walk. Ghost Walk has a warp charge of 5. Select a friendly core or Craftworld character within 12 of this Psyker until the start of your next psychic phase. Add 2 to charge rolls they make. Crushing Orb. Warp charge 6, pick an enemy unit within 18 invisible to the Psyker and roll 3d6, adding 2 to the result if it's a vehicle or monster, or it contains 6 or more models. For each 4+, take a mortal wound. And then Focus Will on 6. Select a friendly Azriani Psyker unit within 12d4 inches of the Psyker. Until the start of the next psychic phase, add 2 to their psychic tests and deny the witch tests. So that's a good support one right there. Especially if you want someone to do Runes of Fate, where you get bonuses for all the higher casts. Or if you're from the discipline where a 9+ just can't be dispelled. Malediction, Impair Senses is a warp charge of 6. Select an enemy unit 18 invisible. Until your next psychic phase, they cannot be affected by aura abilities from your opponent's army. And then the Revenant Discipline, the Gaze of Ennead, Ennead, has a warp charge of 6. Select an enemy unit within 18 of the Psyker and roll 1d6, subtracting 2. If that unit has a starting strength of 1. On a 1 or less, they take a mortal wound. On a 2 to 5, they take d3 mortal wounds. On a 6, they take d6 mortal wounds. Store Whispers. Warp charge 6, roll 3d6 for each enemy within 9 of the Psyker. On a 4+, take a mortal wound. And then Word of the Phoenix. Warp charge 6, select 1 friendly Ynnari infantry unit, excluding Wraith constructs. 1 of that unit's destroyed models, or d3 of its destroyed models, if they have troops, can be added back to that unit with full wounds remaining. These models can be set up within engagement range of enemy units that are already within engagement range of the unit being added back to. So you can basically bring back models. Unbind Souls, warp charge 6, enemy units within 18 of the Psyker. Each time an Ynnari model from the army makes a melee attack that targets that unit, a modified roll of 6 automatically wounds. And then Shield of Ennead, Blessing, warp charge 6, select a friendly Ynnari unit excluding Titanic units within 12, get a 4+ invul. And Ancestor's Grace, Warp Charge 7. If manifested, select one friendly Ynnari unit with an 18 of the Psyker. Until the start of the next psychic phase, each time a model in that unit makes a melee attack, add 1 to its wound roll. And then Crusade rules. So, a lot of neat stuff in here. You got tons of different agendas. You get avatars. So, basically all of the following count as avatars. You're like Incarn and Avatar Arcane. They don't get experience, they can't get extra stuff. If they accrue battle stars or fail out of action tests, then on a 1 you remove them from the order of battle, on a 2 to 6 no effect. So they don't get screwed up by damage because they're just giant statues and they're made out of god. Phoenix Lords, units including your Crusade army, are considered to be named characters for all rules purposes. The fresh recruits requisition cannot be used to increase the unit size of Warlock characters from order of battle. And the Darkin, if every Drukhari unit from your army is in the Ynnari, you cannot select any Drukhari agendas. Drukhari Ynnari can gain battle traits, weapon enhancements, and Crusade relics and battle stars listed in the Drukhari Codex. And a Ynnari Drukhari cannot be an Ascendant Lord. So you get all kinds of agendas to earn experience with. Court of the Young King, you can build up a unit of like Aspect Warrior Exarchs. Select one Aspect Warrior unit from your order battle that has 5 or more experience points and contains a model with the word Exarch in the profile. They lose any Exarch power they had and reduce their power rating accordingly. The Aspect Warrior cannot gain any experience points, but add an Avatar Arcane. So basically, if you don't have an Avatar Arcane in your army, you can slay one of your Exarchs and have him become the Young King, basically become the Avatar, which I think is super cool. It's the only way to get an Avatar, is you have to sacrifice one of your finest warriors to do it. Requisition your Ghost Warriors. Purchase this requisition after winning a battle. If your opponent's army contained any Slaanesh units, you get your warlord gains 5 experience points. Renew determination. As soon as you see the darkness of Slaanesh, you just gain experience, which I think is awesome. Different paths, and these give you different things you can do. So you gain path points if you want to be on the path of the warrior, the path of the seer, the path of the outcast, based upon who your guys are. And then you can earn souls for the Aeneid. Do trials for your Harlequins and do grand performances too. So each of the 3 factions has 3 different ways of playing a Crusade and doing different things to earn experience. So you're looking for souls for the Aeneid. You're looking for Ynnari. You're looking for doing performances for your Harlequins, and you're looking at walking paths for the Craftworld Eldar. Your own relics and battle traits and stuff. Cool Crusade army, somebody's very nice Ulthway army. And Harlequins. Alright, we're into stuff. Because we've already looked at these. Avatar, it's been pretty much shown off at this point, so I'm not going to spend much time on him. Your Farseer Skyrunner, 16-inch move, 4 wounds. Oh, sorry, times 4, 6 wounds, 2 attacks. Farseer's on foot. Eldrad's still pretty great. His big bonus is Armor of the Last Rune. 4+ invul, and when you attack him, an unbuffed wound roll 1 to 3 always fails. So he's got transhuman. Never suffers perils. And reroll the test for psychic powers all the time. He can manifest 3 powers per turn and deny 2. It knows Smite and 3 powers from the Runes of Fortune or Runes of Fate. We've seen the Autarch, Prince Iriel. Prince of Corsairs, before the battle, when placing units in strategic reserve, if your army contains this model, you can have the power rating of the Yen infantry units and Anrath units for the purpose of determining what you have to pay. You can use the command reroll strategist more than once. He's basically an Autarch for pirates, but he has the Anrath keyword, so he can lead your space pirates. I'm glad he's back. I love Prince Iriel. Alright, so who didn't get a new model? Azerman, Bayroth, Fugan. Janzar, of course, already had one. I love that my Fugan model's still the same. But they've only got 6 wounds. Like, that's the thing. They can only take 3 per phase, but if you take 3 in the shooting phase and 3 in the combat phase, you're dead. And then it's just use your psychic power to come back to life. I do like that Fugan's strength and toughness 5, though, over everybody else, which is pretty cool. They automatically give your aspect warriors within 6 of them, like the attached ones, to have OBSEC. And then your Azerman gets a 3+ invul still. When this model consolidates or makes a battle focus move, you just put him anywhere on the battlefield. Assured Destruction. Reroll wound rolls of 1 for his when he's targeting vehicles or monsters, because he's a badass. Karandra, Sustained Assault. Unmodified hit roll 6 does an additional hit. And you get this additional attack generated by this ability cannot benefit from the abilities of the Scorpion's Bite. And Mogan Ra, who I'm super pumped for. It's only 6 wounds, 6 attacks. The Mogatar, Assault 6, 7 minus 2 damage. And a modified wound roll of 6 does mortal wounds on top of normal hits. You never get benefit or light cover. Doom Incarnate, all of the models he kills count as 2 for the morale phase. And look, Night Spear is still around. He's just a baby though. His sniper rifle is real good. Strength 6 minus 3 damage. And if the wound rolls a 4+, does D3 normal wounds in addition to normal damage. You can just ace characters with him. Guardian Defenders, Rangers, we've already seen all this stuff. Your Void Reavers and your Void Scarred. So basically you can take these in 2 ways. You can take like the naked Void Reavers as just like a unit that's a troop choice, or you can take Void Scarred, although they never count as minimum troops for other armies, only in a detachment where everything's Handwrath. So basically you can play a Space Pirate army, or you can take Corsair Void Scarred, and this is what comes in the Kill Team box, and includes the Felrark, the Shade Runner, the Soul Weaver, and the Wayseeker. So they're not character big, but they're like baby characters. It's like a baby Farseer, actually 2 kind of baby Farseers, a Shade Runner, which is like an assassin fighty character with its cool paired Hekatari blades. It just does mortal wounds after charges. And then the Void Scarred Felrark, which is the character leader. Warlocks, if you take a unit of 1, they count as 40 points instead of 20, or you get 2 of them as a unit of 2 to 3 models for 40 points. So basically, 2 is the same price as 1, but they don't get the character keyword. But you can do things like Seer Councils and stuff as well. Skyrunners, Fire Dragons. Dire Avengers are elites again, as are Fire Dragons. Banshees and Scorpions, Wraithblades and Wraithguard. I do have to say, I think the Wraithguard and Wraithblades got more interesting with Battle Focus, if you can give them Battle Focus with a CP now. Being able to take D-sides at 10 minus 4/1 damage, Assault D6, run them 11 inches, potentially, shoot and then fall back, and they have Blast, and do mortal wounds on 6s to wound. It's pretty cool. Wraith Cannons are also pretty cool for killing stuff, but yeah, it's pretty great. But it has to be all or nothing. You can't mix them, unfortunately. Wraithlord's still awesome. 9 wounds, no wound track, toughness 8. Have 2 heavy weapons and either flamer or pair of flamers or pair of shuriken cannons. -1 damage because of Wraithbone form, and also on the Wraithblades and Wraithguards, they're all -1 damage. They're all basically Dreadnoughts. Hawks and Warp Spiders, Shining Spears, the Shroud Runners we've already seen. Warwalkers and Dark Reapers, which we've already seen through Armor Community. The Falcon, the Venerable Falcon, the oldest model probably now in the range. Cannot believe they're still making that model. There's absolute classic, so well designed. It's amazing how well it's held up over time. It's just a beautiful miniature. Toughness 7, 12 wounds, 3 attacks, 3+ to hit. Missile launchers, Bright Lances, 8 minus 4, D3 plus 3. They've flattened out the damage on everything. It's just the Star Shot and the Missile launcher still D6. Everything else got a bit flatter. Crystal Targeting Matrix, ignore all the modifiers to hit rolls. Spirit Stones, you have double your wounds remaining for your wound track. Oh, so good. Star Engines, 3D remove characters, you can move 19. Vector Engines, once per battle in your command phase, you get the Battle Focus ability. Crazy. Although all your guns are heavy, so you wouldn't really be shooting anything, you just get the move afterwards. And then Fire Prisms, Wave Serpents, Night Spinners, all still basically the same. The weapon profiles obviously have changed and everything. Crimson Hunter, 20 to 60. Strength up to 6 with 6 wounds. Hemlock Wraith Fighter, Wraith Knight. He's still a Titan, 2 wounds less than a Knight, 3+, 3+. 5 attacks though, slightly higher attacks. He's got a 4+ invul save all the time, so a better invul than Knights, and it's in melee too. His Titanic Ghostglaive, he doesn't have a trample, but he can do multiple attacks. He can sweep for basically a trample, where he's 8 minus 3/2 damage, which is better actually than the Night Kicks, because he's gonna have 10 attacks, as opposed to, sorry, he's gonna have 15 attacks at 8 minus 3/2 damage. Holy crap. And then the strike is going to be strength 14 minus 4/6 damage with 5 attacks. I mean, he's going to be spendy, but he's actually better than a Knight now, I think. His heavy weapons aren't as good, obviously, as the big Knight weapons, but like, oh, sorry, and he still has his Titanic feet, but they're not as good as a sweep on the Ghostglaive. So your base attack doesn't do the trampling that the Knight one does now. And then your Sun Cannon, heavy 2d6 blast, 8 minus 3 damage. That's a pretty legit gun. I think the Sun Cannon and a Ghost Glaive, yeah. Oh, but you can't have both. You have to replace the Ghost Glaive with a Heavy Wraith Cannon or a Sun Cannon. And the Scatter Shield can be replaced with a Heavy Wraith Cannon. So basically, if you want the Sword and Shield, then you have to have only regular heavy weapons. You could have a Star Cannon, Scatter Laser, or Shuriken Cannon. So I guess Star Cannons it is. Although the Shuriken Cannon is still pretty good as well. And then your Webway Gate, unless you put Strategic Reserve through it. During deployment, when you set this up, it can be set up anywhere in the battlefield more than 12 from the enemy deployment zone and enemy models. When it's set up, both of its Wraithbone arches must be set up within 3 inches of each other. Harlequins, again, pretty much the same. The Kiss is +1, -2 damage. The Kiss should really be like -4, because it just turns you into soup inside, and it's one little teeny hair. Fusion Pistols, 8 -4, D6 +2 all the time. Still really good at melting characters. Don't want to get shot with that up close. Shrieker Cannon, no lookout, sir, for getting shot by a Death Jester. Skyweavers, Void Weavers, much the same. The Yvrain, 2+2+, you got 5 wounds. It's a bit offset right there, though. There's a lot of typing. She's got her Sword of Sorrows, +1, -3, 2 damage. And if I'm off, I hit roll a 6, you get 2 mortal wounds, and the sequence ends. Herald of Aeldari, each time an Aeldari model within 6 is destroyed on a d6 roll of 4+, this model regains a lost wound. And if they were a Psyker, select a Psych power from the Revenant discipline until the end of the turn. They know that on top. And then you got your Gyrinx Familiar, reroll a Psych test. And the same rune suit thing, 1 to 3s always fail to hit her. She's like a weird Cenobite. The Vizark, who I love the miniature for. I'd probably use him just as a Dark Eldar Lord. What's he got? Azuvar, the Sorglent Sword, +2, -4, 2 damage. No invuls on a wound roll of 4+. And he's the Warden of Yvrain. If your army includes Yvrain, this model can be included without taking up a battlefield slot. It has to be within 3. Sorry, while Yvrain's within 3, that Yvrain cannot be targeted as target of range attacks, so he steps in front. 4+ invul. Also sucks up wounds, rerolls hit rolls of 1 for Ynnari core. And the Incarn, 2+2+, 7/7, 12 wounds, 6 attacks. It's kind of still a worse avatar. Sword of Stoles, and also Swirling Soul Energy. Assault D6, 7 -2, 1 damage, auto hits, just like Flamering. And then it's Piercing Strike, +4, you strength 11, -4, D3 +3 with no invuls. And Sweeping Blow, 2 attacks. He gets 12 attacks, strength 7, -4, 1 damage. Never gets a Relic or Warlord trait. 4+ invul, half damage. While Ynnari cores within 12 of them, you never suffer modifiers to your combat attrition, swirling energies. Each time this model fires Overwatch, it only resolves attacks with this weapon. And it shoots every enemy unit in range. Inevitable death during deployment. You can set this model up waiting instead of on the battlefield. If you do so when another unit's destroyed, before removing the last model, set them up within 1 inch. He pops out of a dead unit. And when he dies on a 6, each unit within 3 takes a mortal wound. He knows 2 psych powers, Snite, and 2 from the Revenant discipline. And he counts as a demon. Still. And that's weapon profiles. And we're done. Well, I guess there's point values. People might care about that stuff. But again, I'm not going through every single point value. That sounds like madness. So if you want to get a look at point values, get a look at point values, because that'd be a lot. But they're relatively cheap. You're looking at like 100, 125 points for a unit of Guardians. Characters are like around 100 points. Wraith Lord's pretty expensive now. Wraithguard Knight, sorry, 400 points. If you want to give him some heavy weapons, he's looking at like 450, 425. And then your Exarch powers you've already seen. Harlequins, right there. And I think that is that. Yeah, just the reference. And there we go, Codex Aeldari. Oh my God. What a giant book. What a chunky chunk of 2 codexes slammed together. I'll be honest, I'm excited to paint these. I'm gonna use a whole lot of contrast, and I'm probably just gonna do them like in the book. Do the red for the Swordwind, and yeah, not Swordwind, the same Han. Yeah, it's a Swordwind. And like the white helmets and stuff like that, and just paint up a cool little incursion force to try this out, because I love the miniatures. I love that they got redone. I love that we have like a new Eldar Codex for the first time in a while, and they kept all of like the original classic beautiful Jess Goodwin designs for pretty much everything. So big thanks for watching. We'll see you for more GMG reviews in the future. Till I'm Ash. Hey there, I hope you enjoyed that video. There are tons of other games already recorded for you to watch. Click over to my channel page if you haven't already, and have a look to the dozens of playlists full of videos. I guarantee you'll discover a game you haven't seen played before. I put out new videos 7 days a week, and every day is themed to a different genre as I continue to explore the wider world of gaming. Of course, none of that's possible without you, the viewer, so click a like and subscribe if you'd like to stay on top of what's happening here daily. My 2 kids and I are massively grateful to be able to have the flexibility of this job so I can always maximize my time with them. If you want to support me continuing to put out this content, it's only possible because of my amazing backers on Patreon who support the studio, equipment, and model cost, as well as being how I make the bulk of my living. You can also help out by buying a t-shirt through Spreadshirt, a measuring gauge or widget from Death Ray Designs, or buying one of my games and supplements like Last Days, Gamma Wolves, and Blaster. As a way of showing my appreciation, patrons get early access to new games and supplements that I write throughout the course of the year. Huge thanks for watching, it really does help out, and happy gaming.